conscious fan. This is the first time that the concert stops. But for some, the intervention of the medical cart would be too late. 9-year-old Ezra Blount was attending the concert with his father, Tristan. Ezra was a massive Travis Scott fan. In this video, you can see Ezra on top of his dad's shoulders in the extremely tightly packed South Quadrant. Ezra's dad, Tristan, started having an extremely difficult time breathing, however, with how little room he had to move.
The crowd just starts going crazy and Tristan goes, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." He woke up in the crowd and Ezra was gone.
Tristan ended up passing out like many others in the South Quadrant, and his son Ezra fell into the trampling crowd below. Tristan eventually regained consciousness and began a frantic search for his son. Ezra was nowhere to be found, so Tristan frantically started pushing his way through the crowd, heading towards the medical tents to see if he could find his son. As Tristan was pushing through the crowd and the medical cart was still trying to make its way through the crowd, the South Quadrant was reaching its breaking point. 22-year-old Bharti Shahani was at the concert with her sister and cousin. Incredibly, this was Bharti's first concert ever. But in the violent swaying of the crowd, the three of them were ripped apart. Bharti was swept into the South Quadrant and pinned directly into the heavy metal barricades. With thousands of pounds of pressure digging into her back and the steel barricades in front of her, she had no room to breathe. She eventually lost consciousness from the lack of oxygen. While EMS crews were eventually able to pull Bharti out of the barricade and onto a stretcher, the damage was already done. By the time she reached the medics, Bharti was showing no brain activity.
We're getting told by the media person that there's a large group of people that are climbing their media towers that are in front of the stage, and that people are about to fall off, and that their media people that are at the booth are calling quote-unquote mayday request to get out, and they can't get out.
As the situation spiraled, fans tried taking matters into their own hands. Sienna Faith and Aiden Cruz were filmed climbing on a camera platform, screaming at the operator to cut the feed and warning him that people were dying in the pits below. Finally, at 9:38 p.m., a little over a half hour since the concert began, the Houston Fire Department labeled this as a mass casualty event. This meant that the number of victims had completely overwhelmed the medical resources on site, triggering an emergency surge of outside ambulances and personnel. But despite this official declaration of a disaster, the music didn't stop. In fact, the most dangerous part of the night was still yet to come.
Slowly. We need somebody to help him. Somebody passed out right here. Hold on, don't touch him, don't touch him. Everybody just back up. Security, somebody help jump in real quick. Keep going, just keep it this way.
Travis stopped the show a second time as he was alerted there was an unconscious fan by the stage.
Somebody jump in, come on, security, get in there, let's get in there, let's get in there, let's get in there, let's get in there. Yeah.
In other areas of the venue, fans were chanting, "Stop the show."
Stop this show! Stop this show! This person was a really good friend of mine.
But Travis later said that he was unaware of those chants going on.
So they did pause the show 3 times, but it's hard to tell when a moment was, to stop and help. And then once you did that, literally the next song, someone needed help again.
Despite this concert already being labeled a mass casualty event, at 9:54 p.m., superstar Drake walked onto the stage as a surprise guest. This was like throwing gasoline on a fire. Fans who were already exhausted and suffocating were suddenly hit by a new wave of energy from the back of the crowd. While Travis and Drake were performing sicko mode, first responders were performing CPR on unconscious fans just yards away. As mentioned before, bearing the worst of it were those in a very small section of the South Quadrant. 23-year-old Madison Dubisky, who was at the show with her brother, unfortunately died here from the extreme compression caused by the pressure of the crowd surge. Close by, 27-year-old Danish Beg was trying to protect his fiancée as the crowd surge intensified. During the chaos, he fell in the crowd and was trampled and compressed by people on all sides. Donish also tragically lost his life that night. Axel Acosta, Brianna Rodriguez, Franco Patino, Jacob Juranic, John Hilgert, and Rodolfo Pena all met the same devastating fate in the South Quadrant. Their causes of death were all the same. The pressure of the crowd was so extreme that it physically prevented them from being able to breathe. The surprise appearance by Drake lasted until 10:11 p.m., but even then, the music didn't cut. Travis stayed on stage to perform one final song, Goosebumps. Finally, at 10:15 p.m., 37 minutes after a mass casualty event was declared, and over an hour after the first fans began to die, the music had finally stopped.
But as far as like the evacuation, like it was like any other concert, like any other show. You guys have a great night. And then everybody just went out their way.
In the hours and days after the tragedy, the world demanded answers. Travis eventually released an apology video on his Instagram.
I just want to send out prayers to the ones that was lost last night. We're actually working right now to identify the families so we can help assist them through this tough time. You know, my fans really mean the world to me, and I always just really want to leave them with a positive experience. And anytime I can make out, you know, anything that's going on, I stop the show and, you know, help them get the help they need, you know. I could just never imagine the severity of the situation.
The Astroworld tragedy remains a haunting reminder of what happens when the rage goes too far and the systems designed to protect us fail. It changed the way that festivals are permitted and policed in the city of Houston, but for the families of the 10 who never came home, those changes came at an unimaginable cost.
So I've recently came across a lot of videos like this.
Alright, lore-based Doomslayer versus Creative Steve plus commands. Creative Steve is fodder!
And me being a complete Minecraft nerd, I wasn't going to let this slide. Because you may be thinking, oh yeah, Steve is kind of strong, I watched a game theory video, blah blah blah. No, you don't understand how insanely strong Steve is. Like, it's not even funny. I hate seeing so many people lowballing Steve online. So let this be my video PSA on why Steve is incomprehensibly strong. And could also solo fiction. Wait, what? Okay, so after watching some power scaling videos, I noticed that there's 5 main components to measure how strong someone is. The first aspect is raw strength, or in our case, how much Steve can lift up and carry. Sure, yeah, there's been a game theory video made just about this, made in 2018, but because times have changed, the number that they came up with has become incredibly inaccurate. There's actually a lot more that goes into this question than you would even think, and no one has covered it yet. So let me begin. First, we need to find out what the heaviest thing Steve could hold is, and that would have to be the gold block, is what I would say if this was 2018, but no, there's actually a block that's 7 times heavier than gold, and that is netherite. But to find out how much a netherite block weighs, we could actually use a gold block for reference. You see, a gold block weighs about 21.3 tons, and dividing that by 9, we get to see how much each little gold weighs. Multiply that by 4 and we get how much gold is inside netherite. But for the nether scrap, we don't really know what that is. Yeah, we know it comes from ancient debris, which can be found underneath the nether, but we don't really know much more than that. But taking some lowball assumptions, we could assume it's what's popularly theorized. And that theory is basically a bunch of hoglins and whatnot died, and it's just the remains. So we could assume that each scrap is at least as heavy as a bone block. And after some rather concerning research, I found that a 1 by 1 meter cube of bone would be 2.2 tons. Why is there a study on this? Putting this all together, we could see that one netherite bar is 19 tons, and then multiply that by 9, and we get the insane weight of 164 tons for one netherite block, aka already the weight of a blue whale. Now with this insane netherite block, we could fill up an entire shulker box top to bottom with stacks of it. And once we're done filling that up, we could use control pick block, and that copies the shulker box into your inventory with all of its MBT data. And by doing that, we are now carrying 284,000 tons in just one shulker box, which thanks to this random guy I found on Quora, what we're holding is more than the weight of a skyscraper. Oh, and you think that's impressive, because you could actually grab a chest and fill it up with these shulker boxes, take that chest into your inventory, and you can start filling up another chest with stacks of the previous chest. And you could actually continue doing this process with the pick block technique for a long time, until eventually you reach a depth tag limit of the game, which is doing this 171 times. So after doing that entire process 171 times, you should result in a final chest, which once again you can multiply this through your inventory and also into your offhand to get the max stuffies you could hold. And I actually have no clue how much this is, so I then spent an entire afternoon calculating it all. And I wanted to do it all in one sitting because I thought it'd be cool for this time lapse, but in reality it just gave me extreme brain rot. But here we are, and this is the number I got. And I went to some random math website and it told me that's this many tons, 7 followed by 618 zeros. This website also has a worded out section for my number, but it's only telling me that my number is too big even as I scroll. And after some furthermore calculations, I found out that saying our number is heavier than the observable universe is an understatement. Our number is so big that Steve could basically hold this many universes. And even this number is so big I can't even visualize it. Going back to the one website, it basically says that it's 667 188 illion mini universes. I don't even know what that number is. That Steve could just carry around. But another thing is, the Minecraft Earth is different than our Earth. It means that the gravity that Steve experiences is different than the gravity that we experience. And this could affect how much he feels his weight. So I set up this experiment to determine how strong gravity is by determining the sand's rate of acceleration. Now all I gotta do is press this button and... so I don't need to do my own research. Thank you, internet. Anyways, if we take our previous number of tons and then multiply it by the new gravity, we get... Oh no. Okay, cool. Now that you're beginning to understand just the stupidity of how strong Steve is, let's head over to speed. To start off, I built a 100 block race course to see how fast Steve's sprint jump was. And after recording a quick clip where I ran it all, I put that clip into my editing software and cropped out the exact points where it begins and finishes. And it told me that it took 14.4 seconds for Steve to run 100 blocks, or in other words, 15.5 miles per hour. Which, to be clear, each block in Minecraft has a 1 cubed meter correlation to real life. And in real life, the 100 meter dash record is 19.58 seconds by Usain Bolt. So just by casually running, we're already one of the fastest people in the world. But no, we could go faster. Since we're in creative, I tried getting a base fly test speed, which came out to be 5.07 seconds, aka 44 miles per hour. But Steve could still fly a lot faster than that. By going in spectator, not many people know this, but by scrolling up on your mouse, you could actually turn up your acceleration speed. And you could actually go extremely fast with this. So after struggling to get on the dang starting platform, I eventually launched myself so fast I zipped past the finish line and accidentally started loading out new chunks behind it. And just to see how fast that was, it was 1.42 seconds to reach it, aka 157 miles per hour, which in real life is as fast as a skydiver going headfirst out of a plane. But now we reached a point where there's only one way to go faster. Drugs. In Minecraft, as we all know, there are potion effects. When splashed with one of these speed 2 potions, we get a 40% speed increase, but that number is nothing. By doing slash effects, you can actually boost yourself up with speed 255. But I noticed in order to test it, we need a better runway than this small dinky thing. So let me introduce you to the considerably larger version, which I built a 10,000 block track for, and only cuts through a staggering 5 goddamn villages because my dumb head forgot to turn off village spawns on this world, ending this track off with a golden pad to stop me. So by going to the beginning of the track, I gave myself speed and I began running. As you can see, we're actually running so fast, the road is struggling to load in. So I put on chunk boards so you can get more of a sense of scale. You can also see the ridiculous speed of the clouds above me as I run. But once I reached the finish line, I threw the clip into Premiere Pro and it ended up taking 34.15 seconds. And after doing some brief calculations, it ends up being 655 miles per hour, which is basically the speed of sound. We are casually walking faster than a literal plane. But the thing is, you could still go faster than this. In Minecraft, you could actually slash attribute your speed to become your new base. But unlike the speed effects earlier that cap out at 255, for this we could just... yeah. And now, with just one little click of the W key, I immediately run off the course of the entire face of the Earth. And eventually, I just lag backwards a few thousand blocks because my PC can't handle it.
Look, if I hold down W and continue running, my PC absolutely destroys itself. You can hear the fans going off.
But if I try it again, this time with my cords open, you can see we launch about 10,000 blocks and then we begin slowing down due to the lack of ground underneath us. But by looking at this footage frame by frame, we could actually see a few numbers. So I recorded them down on a graphing calculator and you can see I actually start starts slowing down right after the first frame, because by then I've already fully ran outside the blocks rendering around me. Meaning, in the 0.01 second I was able to touch ground, I ran 1,003 meters, which is the equivalent of 223,000 miles per hour, which is far, far faster than anything as a human species we have came close to getting to. With this speed, you could literally run around the entire Earth in just 6 minutes. But if that's too slow for you, there's still /TP, which allows you to instantly Goku teleport anywhere you want. Now you may be thinking, this gives Steve infinite speed, but it actually doesn't. Here's the thing, there's actually a limit to how fast you can teleport. In Minecraft, the /teleport command takes exactly 1 in-game tick to register, which is 1/20th of a second, aka 0.05 seconds. But now we need to find out the max distance we could travel within that 0.05 time frame. And using the Pythagorean theorem, we know that the longest line that could fit within a cuboid goes from one corner to the opposing corner. Oh yeah, you know I'm going nerd mode when I introduce a high school math subject. Although lots of people still think that the Minecraft world is infinite,